So, check this out, people. Today, I want to talk about something that I don't see a lot of people talking about, right? When you go on YouTube, you're going to see some people talking about it, right? But not too many and not in depth, right? What I want to talk about is the condos here in the Philippines, because there are many people who are considering or who have considered buying condos here in the Philippines, right? Now, I've lived in the Philippines for 2 years. And since 2017, I've gone to and from the Philippines from the US, right? And all the years that I've returned to and from, I've stayed in many condos and I've stayed in many hotels. And if you watch my channel, I've recently started making this series called Is It Worth It, right? For anyone who's considering buying a condo here in the Philippines, my advice to you is don't. Don't do it. Condos here in the Philippines are overpriced and they are not well maintained, right? Now, for Filipinos or anyone out there who is offended by the things I am saying, I am not attacking the Philippines and I'm not attacking Filipinos, right? Because anyone who watches my videos knows how much I appreciate the Philippines and Filipinos and the way they work and how well they maintain their properties and how well they maintain their restaurants, right? Because the Philippines are very clean. Filipinos are very, very clean, right? And they take pride in their restaurants and their properties. But this isn't about Filipinos. This isn't about those who own the individual rooms or apartments in condominiums, right? This is not about these people. This is about the property owners, because when you buy a condo, you only own the apartment or the room that you're buying. You don't own the building, right? Those who control and own the building are those who you're buying from, and it's their job to provide the maintenance, and it's their job to provide the cleanliness outside of the condo units. And this is why you pay a condo fee. So if something breaks down, they have a maintenance crew to repair it and to maintain cleanliness outside of the units, right? The problem with buying condos here in the Philippines is that they are overpriced. There was a time when you can buy a condo and flip it. But today, in this time, this day and age, you cannot buy a condo and expect to flip it in the future because they're overpriced. When they sell condos here, they price them not for Filipinos, but for foreigners, Chinese, Korean, and foreigners, Australian, European, Westerners like Americans. And so most of these condos or these condo buildings are empty. There is no community because most of the people who stay in these condos are outsiders, temporary renters who rent through Airbnb or through Booking.com for simple short stays like staycations, right? And so most of these people are outsiders, and so there is no sense of community, right? And because these things are overpriced and are built to cater to foreigners, local Filipinos cannot afford them. They cannot buy them, right? The majority of them, at least, because the majority of Filipinos earn a minimum wage, right? And so the minimum wage cannot cover the rent and everyday expenses like foreigners can. So a lot of these condos are overpriced. And if you're thinking about buying one, you're going to overpay. And when you decide to sell it, you won't be able to sell it at a profit. You're going to have to sell it at a loss, a huge loss. And then on top of that loss, you will pay taxes at full value of the condo. And so if you pay, let's say, this is just a random number I'm throwing out there. Let's say you pay 20 million pesos, right? Let's say you pay 40,000 American dollars for this condo and you sell it at a loss, right? You end up selling it for 30,000. You will pay the full value of that condo that might be worth some 50,000. You will pay taxes on the maximum, not what you sold it at, but what the unit may be worth according to whatever the Philippines decide the value of that condo is, right? And most of the time, when you buy a condo, it's usually in a building that's newly built, right? And a lot of these buildings that are newly built, they look amazing, they look great. You go inside, you look at these units, you see that they're amazing, they're beautiful, but within 6 months, they begin to deteriorate. And the reason why that is because those outside of the units who are the owners who you pay your monthly dues to so that they can maintain the building don't maintain. They don't hire cleaning crews. They don't hire maintenance crews. And if they don't hire management to supervise well enough to see whether or not these people are actually doing their job. And a lot of the times you will find that these condos, after some 6 months, are going to become roach infested, that little by little a tile will break, will crack, and it won't be replaced. That one tile will eventually become two tiles, three tiles, four tiles, and eventually the value of that condo will go down. Because it doesn't matter how well you maintain the unit inside, what matters is first impressions. And the first impressions that people see are as soon as they walk into the condo building itself, when they get into the elevator, and when they get off the elevator. And most of the time, when I visited a condo and stayed at a beautiful condo, for example, Sur, here in the Philippines, in the Manila area, right, near or on Parañaque. I'm not exactly sure if it's in Parañaque, but it's close to that area. You will find that this whole complex unit is beautiful. They have like 4 swimming pools. They have a wade pool, one that looks like you're on a beach. But once you enter the condo unit itself, you're going to find that it's roach infested. You're going to find that the maintenance itself is not up to date. They don't keep up with their maintenance. And so when you look at these pictures and these videos on YouTube, everything looks great until you yourself show up and see for yourself. Because unfortunately, just like me, I don't want to report on the downfalls of these condo units here in the Philippines, because I appreciate the people, I appreciate the country, and I'm not here to put on a negative light onto the Filipino people or the country itself. I'm simply reporting what is actually happening and how it really is. I'm simply telling it like it is, right? And the fact is that these condo units are overpriced, they're not well maintained, and they slowly but surely fall apart. And there's no one there to take on the slack and repair the condo when it's falling apart. They're just not keeping up to date. And the problem with a lot of these condo buildings that are being built, and trust me, they're building hundreds, if not thousands, of these things all across the Philippines. And most of them are empty. Most of them are owned and run by outsiders or foreigners who don't even live in them, right? Who are buying them as an investment. Unfortunately, the investment is not a lucrative one, it's a failure. If you're buying a condo here in the Philippines or planning to buy one, do not expect a return when you sell it. If you plan to sell it, if you're one of those people who invest in condominiums so that in the future you can sell it at a profit because you believe that condos appreciate, unfortunately, that may be true in the US or the country where you're from, but here in the Philippines, it's not like that. These condo units will only depreciate in value because of the maintenance issues that are in these condos. And the fact is that there is no maintenance most of the time. Now, Anyone who watches my channel knows that I've traveled through the Philippines and that I stay in many hotels long before I started the series. Is it worth it? I was staying in condos and hotels up until recently when I decided to start talking about the condo stays and hotel stays and the places I'm visiting to my viewers, right? To let them know whether or not these places that I'm visiting are worth it. And most of the time they are, right? I'll give you a perfect example. I love one of these places that I visit here in the Philippines called Eastwood City. When I visit Eastwood City, which is one of the places that I visit regularly, where I like to get away to when I want to spend time by myself, right? I'll rent a condo for 2 days on the weekends, on the weekdays, whenever I feel like it. These condos that I've stayed in are very clean, they're very well maintained, they're old places, they are not newly made. So you can see a pattern of cleanliness, of maintenance, and how well these condos are kept. And so, my advice to those who want to buy condos, do not buy into a building that is newly built and newly made. Because if you do, you will see that place eventually deteriorate within 6 months. Buy into a place that's been around, that has a history, that's been around for 5 years or more, that when you walk into the building, you can actually see whether or not they're maintaining it. Because if you buy into a newly built building, it doesn't have a history of maintenance. You have no idea whether or not they're going to maintain it, whether they're going to keep up the maintenance, or whether or not it's going to become run down, just like many condos I've stayed in where they've been around for a year, 2 years, and it looks like they've been around for 20 years because the paint is chipping from the walls, the tiles are cracked, there are missing tiles around the pool area, inside the condo building itself, and you start to see roaches and mice all over as soon as you walk into the building itself, not necessarily the units, because I've stayed in some units that are beautiful, they're clean, they're well maintained. The problem is that if there are roaches outside of the unit, they are going to eventually get into each unit and become an infestation, which is what I've seen, for example, in Asur, here in the Philippines, which is a beautiful place. Unfortunately, they are not doing their job when it comes to pest control and maintenance. And I can say these things because I'm not hearing it secondhand. I am living it firsthand myself. I've stayed in many places. I will always be honest about my visits to these hotels and these condos that I stayed in. And so, if you're one of those people considering buying a condo here in the Philippines, remember this. And this is just my advice and my opinion. I would never buy into a condo building that's newly built because I don't know if it's going to continue to look that way after 6 months. I would rather buy into a place that has a history, 5 years or more, where I can go in, see whether or not they're doing pest control, see whether or not they've been keeping up with the maintenance. That is the only way I would buy into a condo here in the Philippines. Other than that, I won't even consider it because there is no point in me buying at the prices that they're listing these condos at when in reality you won't make a profit when you decide to sell it in the future. First of all, there's no one to buy because most Filipinos cannot buy these units. You would have to consider selling these units and renting out to outsiders like other foreigners. And the unit or the condo building itself will only depreciate. Your unit will depreciate because the condo itself will depreciate in maintenance, cleanliness, and pest control. And so it's not like in America or the country where you may come from, where You buy a home, you buy a condo, and these things only appreciate, right, in value, right? Because you can buy a home in the US for 100,000 and in 20 years sell it for 500,000 because it only appreciates, especially if you add room or if you upgrade and update the home. Here in the Philippines, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because of maintenance issues, cleanliness, pest control, and also the fact that you are overpaying because a lot of these condos are they're being sold to outsiders. That's their target market. And so when you're a Filipino, you're going to pay the Filipino price. When you're an outsider, a foreigner, you're going to pay the foreigner price. And because to us, the price looks good, we overpay. And then when it's time to sell, there's no one to sell it to because no one will pay the price that you're asking for because you already overpaid for a condo that's worth much less than it was sold to you at. And so for those people who are considering buying a condo here in the Philippines, my best advice to you is this. It is better to invest in land. It is better to invest in a townhouse in a gated community where you have control over what happens inside your home, right? And outside of your home than buying into a condo where you have no control in what happens outside of your unit when it comes to either the neighbors or those who are hired to maintain and keep the property clean and safe for you and your family. So thanks for watching, people. Have a good day and have a good night.